rather than writing it all out, I filled out the chart completely, and I just want to simply review the second aorist infinitive forms. Again, the principal parts of every vocabulary word will tell you whether something's first aorist or second aorist. Most of the time, verbs want to be first aorist, and there's only a few verbs that use the second aorist. And when they do use the second aorist, they use the similar imperative endings as the present tense, but the way you distinguish it is by the stem. So that's typically the second aorist. It uses the same suffix endings as the present, but it uses a different stem to distinguish it from the present imperative. So if I were to take something like lambano, then if I wanted to say receive, give a command, this is an aorist tense, then I would add labe. And that's different from lambane, because this uses the lexical stem, and that would mean continue to receive. My command would be continue to receive. That emphasizes the present imperative. This is the present imperative form. But this is the second aorist form because it's using the second aorist stem or the verbal root lab. So that's how you distinguish it from the present imperatives. The second aorists have a different stem, even though the imperatival endings are the same. So if I want to say, let him or her receive, is lebeto. Receive, but you're addressing a group, lebate, and then let them receive, lebeto-san. The same thing happens with the middle, aorist middle. With ginomai, the verbal root is gen. And so if I wanted to say continue to become, if I use the present imperative, I would use the lexical stem, and then it'd be genu. But I'm not using the lexical stem for the aorist middle. I'm using the verbal root or the principal part for the aorist. And so it uses exact same case endings, except for the aorist middle, it will use the aorist stem or the verbal root, not the lexical stem. So genu is become. Genesto is let him or her become. Geneste is become, but you're addressing a group, it's plural. And genesto-san is let them become. And for the aorist passive forms, for grapho, remember that for the aorist passive forms, it usually uses theti, theto, thete, theto-san. But for the second aorist passives, the thetas are all dropped. So for grapho, so if I want to say be written, or let him or her be written in the book of life, let him, her be written. To say be written in the second person singular is graphete, so the theta has been dropped. Let him or her be written, grapheto, the theta has been dropped. Graphete is be written, but it's for a group, a plural. Notice that this is also the subjunctive form. This is your second person plural, aorist passive subjunctive. But here we're doing the imperative paradigm, so we're translating it be written, the aorist passive imperative, second person plural, and grapheto-san is let them be written. You'll have to learn one tweak. Did I spell that right? Tweak or slight change when you form the imperatives for the contract verbs. Rather than the connecting vowel, the typical connecting vowel is not used. Instead, you have vowel contraction, but it's the same contraction all the way through. So for agapao, it keeps its alpha. What happens is the short alpha goes long and then therefore becomes stable. Alpha is a letter that can be either short or long. It's a vowel that's short or long. It moves from short to long to stabilize it. So the case endings are exactly the same. So instead of lu a, it doesn't use the it uses the alpha as so agapa means love. Agapato, let him love. Agapate, love, but plural, and agapatosan. So it's the alpha that connects the imperatival endings with the stem. For the epsilon contracts, it's going to be epsilon iota. It is diphthong that connects the imperatival suffix endings with the stem. So poie, poieto, poiete, poetosan are the imperative forms. For the omicron, it's going to be this diphthong, omicron upsilon, all the way through, that connects the stem, with the imperative suffix ending. So it's this u here that replaces the connecting vowel. So it's pleru, pleruto, plerute, plerutosan for the command forms for plerao. And then for the imperative forms of a me, these will have to be memorized. These are written out. Remember, a me is one of the most irregular forms in your vocabulary, and therefore, with each new mood or tense, you have to simply memorize its form. In this last section, we're going to broaden our discussion. We are going to talk about how to translate the imperative as different types of commands, but we're also going to go over other moods that also can be used as commands. Namely, the future and the subjunctive are moods that can also issue commands besides the imperative. So one of the easiest ones to understand is you take u and then the future indicative, and then you have a prohibitive command. So u thelesete, this is a future. This is not an imperative mood. It's a future indicative. Takaka, neuter plural. You shall not desire evil things. This is a type of command that uses the future plus the u to give a prohibition. Another prohibition is taking me plus the present imperative. So me thelete takaka is almost saying the exact same thing as this, but instead here we're using the present imperative, not the future. But since it's present and there's a continuous element to the command, it can be translated as do not desire evil things, the command, but it also can mean that since there's a continuous element, the person might have already started desiring evil things. And while they're in the middle of that, you want them to stop. So you could translate this also as stop desiring evil things, or another way to get the continuous aspect is don't be in the habit of desiring evil things. These translations reflect the continuous action that's built into the present imperative. What if you use the aorist imperative, where the action is undefined and not continuous, and you use the me to make it a prohibition? Me thelasete takaka, do not desire evil things. So it's the same translation, but since there's no continuous aspect, it might be that you haven't started yet. And so you can also translate this as don't start desiring evil things. Don't even begin. Me thelasete, if you use the aorist imperative, can infer whatever you're prohibiting hasn't started yet, and you're telling them don't even start. Another command is a little bit stronger. When you use me plus the aorist subjunctive, it has a little bit more force. So it's no, don't desire evil things, or don't ever desire evil things. So this is me, and notice that thelasete is not a imperative. You have this long connecting vowel that signals that it's a subjunctive use. So me thelasete takaka is do not desire evil things, but it's a little bit stronger. So you can say no, don't desire evil things, or don't ever desire evil things. And then the strongest prohibition that we covered in our subjunctive module, again, is when you have u plus me plus the aorist subjunctive, and that means don't ever or never, ever, ever. So, u me thelase ta kaka, never, ever desire evil things. And with that, that concludes our module. Remember that you're covering chapter 32 and 33 in your vocabulary. For your homework, do all the parsing, all the short exercises with the even only for the longer translations, 1 through 20, for chapters 32 and 33.